Welcome to today's deep dive. You know that feeling. You're sitting in the office and the phone is just, well, it's ringing off the hook.
Oh yeah, jobs are lined up, crews are dispatched.
Exactly. Material is moving, everything's just humming along. You're looking at your schedule thinking, we finally made it. The machine is actually working.
It's the best feeling.
It is. But then you fast forward a few months or sometimes, even just a few weeks. The weather changes, the season turns, and suddenly it is complete crickets.
Just absolute silence.
Right, you're staring at the phone, literally wondering if the telecom lines are down in your area.
I've heard owners actually say that, like checking their website contact form to make sure it isn't broken.
Yes, it is that classic, incredibly frustrating feast or famine cycle. Some days you're completely drowning in work, and other days you're desperately trying to figure out where the next payroll check is even coming from.
It is exhausting for business owners to live like that. And I'd say it is probably the single most common frustration we hear from the design-focused businesses and the service contractors that we partner with.
Oh, absolutely.
That wild inconsistency, it just breeds this constant low-level underlying anxiety. It permeates the entire company culture, honestly, because no one knows what next month even looks like.
Okay, well, let's unpack this. Because there is a very specific trap that we see operators fall into year after year. And we want to pull back the curtain today.
Yeah, we're doing things a bit differently this time.
We are. We're giving you an exclusive look inside our own internal strategy discussions here at Atrium. Because as growth partners for these businesses, our mission isn't just to be another vendor.
Right, or some marketing agency promising a bunch of empty clicks.
Exactly. We spend our days figuring out how to help contractors get better projects, build resilient systems, and ultimately create predictable work year-round.
And in doing that, we've identified a massive pitfall that usually starts right around, well, the end of winter.
Yeah. Internally, our team refers to this as the March deception.
The March deception. We see this perfectly illustrated in the chimney and fire safety industry, though, the core mechanism applies across almost all service trades.
Roofing, HVAC, custom builds, you name it.
Precisely. What happens mechanically is that the winter emergency calls,
The panic calls.
right, the immediate, highly reactive jobs where a homeowner has a crisis, those start to taper off. The weather warms up just enough. But the true summer maintenance and remodeling demand hasn't hit yet.
So there's this weird gap.
Yeah, so business owners feel this sudden, very noticeable lull in their schedule.
And their immediate reaction is to look around the shop, see the trucks parked, and say, it's our slow season. Let's just catch our breath for a minute.
Which brings us to the real danger. They interpret this temporary drop in immediate demand as some sort of sanctioned downtime.
But that's the deception.
That is the deception. It is not downtime. It is actually the most critical structural setup window of the entire year. By the time March rolls around, the companies that are going to absolutely dominate the lucrative summer bookings,
They're already moving.
they are already positioned, their communication systems are locked in, their brand is highly visible, they are acting, not reacting.
We've been seeing this a lot lately with contractors, especially when we do our initial audits at Atrium. We literally have to sit down with the owner and brutally diagnose the actual root cause of their feast or famine cycle.
Because there's a massive difference between a natural seasonal dip,
Which happens to everyone, right?
exactly, and a complete structural collapse of your lead flow. That distinction changes how you run your entire company.
It really does.
We ask our clients to look at their symptoms objectively. Do your leads just naturally slow down by, say, 20%? Or do they fall off an absolute cliff to zero?
Does your brand visibility completely disappear the second you pause your Google ads?
Right. Are you forced to rebuild your entire marketing engine and restart your campaigns from scratch every single spring like you're a brand new business?
And here is a huge operational red flag we look for. Do your past customers return to you automatically because you have a system nurturing them? Or do they only remember you exist when you practically beg them to come back with a desperate discount email in April?
Yeah, the classic spring blast email. If those symptoms sound familiar, your problem is not seasonality. Your problem is structural.
So let's think about the chimney industry again. Organizations like the Chimney Safety Institute of America,
CSIA, right.
yeah, they actively push for regular annual inspection cycles for safety. And those cycles cluster heavily in the warmer months.
Because no one wants a masonry crew tearing apart their chimney while there's a blizzard outside.
Or a fire actively burning in the hearth.
Exactly. The environment dictates the workflow. And the consequence of that environmental dictation is that the volume in the spring and summer is highly predictable.
It's guaranteed to happen.
It is. The winners of that busy season are decided long before the busy season actually starts. If you are waiting for the summer rush to begin marketing your services, you've already lost.
You've lost the premium, high-margin jobs to the competitor who used the winter to actually build a structural system.
Right.
But wait, let me push back a bit. You say slow periods are for positioning, but if I'm a contractor who is actively struggling to make payroll in March, telling me to focus on my digital assets and brand positioning,
It feels tone deaf.
completely. It feels
Yeah.
disconnected from reality. It sounds like, agency speak. If I don't have cash flowing today, how do you justify telling me to sit quietly and build a system?
What's fascinating here is that is the exact friction point where most businesses fail to scale.
Really?
Yeah, I completely validate the stress of making payroll. But we have to have a hard conversation about causality. The cash flow crisis you are experiencing in March is a direct symptom of the structural failure you allowed to happen last year.
Ouch. True.
You are paying the tax for a lack of preparation. Yes, you have to triage the immediate cash flow. Maybe you run a targeted reactivation campaign to your past client list to generate quick capital.
Sure, get some quick wins.
Right. But if you spend all of March just scrambling for scraps to cover payroll and you completely ignore the structural build-out, you are guaranteeing that you'll be in the exact same terrifying position next March.
It's a vicious cycle.
Slow periods are the only windows where you aren't actively fighting fires, which means they are the only windows where you can actually build firewalls.
Wow. Build firewalls when you aren't fighting fires. That makes a lot of sense because your competitors during this quiet window are usually doing one of two things, right?
Right.
They are either disappearing completely to save a few bucks on marketing, or they are scrambling internally, taking on terrible low-margin busy work just to keep their crews out of the shop.
Exactly. Which means the playing field is wide open for the operator who is actually intentional. Early spring is this incredibly powerful, quiet window to update your messaging, to refine your service offerings.
To rebuild your operational assets without the chaos of 50 ringing phones in the background.
Yes, you have the cognitive space to actually think like a CEO instead of a technician.
But because so many people view it purely as a revenue gap, the anxiety just takes over. And that brings us to what happens when the pressure finally hits.
The inevitable panic.
Right. The weather warms up, it's suddenly May, the schedule's looking dangerously light, and the business owner hits the absolute panic button.
And we know exactly what hitting that panic button looks like on the back end.
It's pure chaos. They realize they are behind the curve, and they just start shoveling money into the furnace of digital ads.
Right.
I mean, Diego mentioned this when we were reviewing some client campaigns recently.
Oh yeah, Diego sees this all the time.
He pointed out that when you blindly increase your ad spend without fixing the underlying business infrastructure first, you aren't buying sustainable revenue.
You are just buying noise.
Just noise. It doesn't produce profitable growth. It produces chaotic growth.
Chaotic growth is the perfect diagnostic term.
Yeah.
Because the really dangerous part about hitting that panic button in May is that it often creates a very convincing illusion of success.
Walk us through that illusion. How does a contractor get tricked into thinking the panic button actually worked?
Well, the phone might actually start exploding. The calls come flooding in.
So they think the ads are working.
Right. But it is vital to understand that it is not necessarily because of your frantic ad spend. The phone explodes because summer inherently brings real estate transactions that require strict code certifications.
They're in his massive home improvement projects.
It brings insurance-related maintenance that homeowners put off all winter. The volume arrives naturally, regardless of your marketing.
So the owner looks at the dispatch board and thinks, great, we doubled the ad budget and now we're busy. The ads worked.
Which is a complete trap. Because you didn't prepare structurally, you haven't positioned your brand to attract the right kind of work.
So you get a massive influx of jobs, yes, but look at the quality of those jobs.
Exactly. They are emergency calls. They are highly price-sensitive shoppers calling 5 different companies.
They are the stressful, low-margin, high-headache jobs that completely tie up your best crews.
You have zero control over your project mix. You are just chasing volume instead of curating quality.
Here's where it gets really interesting. I always compare this reactive ad spend approach to putting a massive turbocharger on a truck with a completely blown transmission.
Oh, that's a great analogy.
Right. The engine revs incredibly high and makes a ton of noise, and you are burning through expensive fuel, which is your ad budget, at record speed. But the vehicle isn't actually moving forward any faster because the operational gears aren't catching.
You might be making some money, but your team's burning out.
Your margins are shrinking, and you are actively leaving the premium, high-ticket projects on the table for the competitor who planned their messaging months ago.
That is a brilliant way to visualize it. The transmission is your conversion system. If it's stripped, the engine power is entirely wasted. You are reacting to the market instead of commanding it.
So how do we rebuild the transmission? Let's shift gears and talk about how we actually approach this fundamentally at Atrium. Because when we step in as a growth partner, we aren't just looking at your Google Ads account.
No, that's a tiny piece of the puzzle.
You're looking at the entire operational machine.
And what we consistently find across almost all service trades, whether it's custom builders, masonry experts, or HVAC teams, is a massive crippling imbalance.
What kind of imbalance?
Well, strong operators will invest heavily in their technical execution. They buy the absolute best trucks, they upgrade their heavy machinery, and they spend thousands getting their crews the highest industry certifications.
And that is all necessary.
It is necessary, but they massively underinvest in their communication infrastructure and their conversion systems.
Right. They build a high-performance service delivery engine, but completely forget to build a system that actually acquires and manages the client.
Exactly.
At Atrium, we focus on patching those critical operational leaks during the slow season so that when the rush hits, you are in complete control of your calendar. And it starts with diagnosing why the systems fail in the first place.
Take something as simple as slow callbacks.
Oh man, slow callbacks.
Slow callbacks are the silent killer of service businesses, and we have to acknowledge why they happen. It isn't because the contractor is lazy.
No, not at all. It is usually because the owner is still wearing the technician hat.
Right. They are up on a roof doing an inspection, or they're managing a complicated job site, and they physically cannot decouple their time from the dispatch and quoting process.
Andrea Romero actually pointed this out when we were working on a recent client strategy.
Yeah, Andrea sees the operational side of this so clearly.
She noted that when a homeowner requests a quote, and they have to wait 48 hours because the owner is in the field, and then they finally get a jargon-heavy PDF estimate that they don't understand, the friction is just too high.
It's way too high. You have to fix that specific mechanical failure. You implement automated text sequences to acknowledge the lead immediately.
You train an office manager to do preliminary qualification.
Yes. You decouple the owner's physical presence from the initial client touch point. You fix the transmission before you hit the gas on the marketing.
If you don't patch those specific operational bottlenecks, you aren't just wasting your marketing budget. You are actively frustrating potential clients.
Harvesting negative reviews.
And damaging your long-term brand reputation in your local market. It's like pouring water into a bucket with holes in it.
Definitely.
Once that baseline conversion system is fixed, we look at pipeline stability. And this is all about recurrence.
Because service, maintenance, and design-build industries cannot thrive on the constant, exhausting treadmill of new customer acquisition.
It is too expensive. You need to build systematic outreach campaigns to your past customers in March and April, well before the summer rush.
Because if you wait until July, when that past client suddenly realizes they need a service, they won't dig through their emails to find your name.
No, they're just going to Google the service and click on the first competitor's ad that pops up.
Exactly. You lose a client you already paid to acquire.
Which flows perfectly into defining your offer clarity. You have to decide exactly what you want your revenue mix to look like this year.
Right. Do you want to dominate preventative inspections? Are you pivoting away from repairs to focus purely on high-end luxury installations?
Do you want to capture commercial compliance contracts?
If you don't aggressively define your offer clarity and align your marketing to it, the market will define it for you, and the market will generally hand you the scraps.
If you want high-end installations, but your website is plastered with emergency 24/7 repair banners, you are attracting chaos.
Clear, intentional positioning improves your lead quality before the search volume even spikes.
But how do you know what to position yourself for? I mean, you can't just guess based on last year. And this is where we get into budget discipline and economic reality.
Yes, we don't just look at a calendar,
Correct.
we look at macroeconomic signals.
This is a critical differentiator for us. We rely on hard data from sources like FRE.
The Federal Reserve economic data.
Right. We look at housing starts, we look at mortgage interest rates, we look at consumer sentiment indexes.
If you connect this to the bigger picture, that level of intentionality is huge.
I want to make sure the listener really grasps the mechanics of this, though. How exactly does looking at a Federal Reserve chart about interest rates translate to a contractor's local digital ad strategy? Walk us through that mechanism.
Let's trace the causality. If FRD data shows us that existing home sales are plummeting because mortgage interest rates are locked at, say, 7 or 8%, it means homeowners are feeling trapped.
They aren't moving into new houses.
They are staying put. So, knowing that psychological state, we advise our partners to pivot their messaging. We don't run ads pushing new home purchase inspections.
Instead, we shift the ad copy and landing pages to heavily focus on things like preserve your current home's value or upgrade the space you're in.
Exactly. We push premium maintenance and remodeling because the data tells us people are investing in their current footprint rather than moving.
You let the economic data dictate the psychological angle of the marketing rather than just guessing what homeowners want to hear.
That is how you stop losing jobs to cheaper bids. Because all these internal fixes,
The economic messaging, the rapid callback systems, the pipeline stability.
right, they all culminate in a fundamentally different external perception of your brand. Which brings us to visual credibility.
Yes. High-value homeowners evaluate you visually long before they ever agree to an estimate.
They absolutely do, and it is entirely based on the psychology of risk mitigation.
When we are talking about getting better high-margin projects, we have to understand the buyer.
For safety organizations like the NFTA,
The National Fire Protection Association.
right, and for premium homeowners, the primary concern is not price. The primary concern is trust and physical safety.
Why does something as simple as refining an About Us page matter to a homeowner who just needs a chimney cleaned?
Because they aren't just hiring a guy with a brush or a hammer. They're trusting someone with the structural integrity of their largest financial asset.
And more importantly, the physical safety of their family living inside it.
Exactly that. Premium buyers are not buying a service, they are buying certainty. When a high-value client is making a critical safety-related decision or an expensive design choice, a professional visual presentation is non-negotiable.
We see so many companies severely underestimate the power of their visual assets.
Take something like architectural visualization.
Oh, that's a game changer.
When an Atrium client can show a homeowner a hyper-realistic 3D rendering of exactly what their custom project will look like, it fundamentally changes the client's brain chemistry.
It instantly elevates the perceived capability of the contractor. It tells the prospect, we are sophisticated enough to handle complex premium projects without the contractor having to utter a single word of persuasion.
It is the stark difference between handing a client a blurry iPhone photo of your work truck versus handing them a professionally engineered visualization. It removes the friction of doubt.
Even something as basic as an About Us page on a website does this. A transparent, well-crafted page that highlights your team's specific industry certifications, your rigorous training processes, and your core values.
It provides psychological reassurance.
It visually and psychologically separates the premium professional service providers from the cheap, fly-by-night operators who just chase storms and emergencies.
And that psychological separation is the exact mechanism that allows you to confidently command higher margins. The homeowner happily pays a premium because they are purchasing a frictionless, highly professional, risk-free experience.
So what does this all mean for you, the listener, sitting in your office right now?
It means that we have to fundamentally shift how we view the business calendar.
The core philosophy we operate on at Atrium and what we instill in our partners is this. Treating the slow season as a highly strategic, intensely active planning period is the only way you enter your peak season calm, organized, and hyper-selective.
If you ignore the slow season, you enter the peak season overwhelmed, reactive, and completely at the mercy of whatever low-margin jobs happen to fall into your lap.
It really is the profound difference between designing a business that serves your life and being a hostage to a business that consumes all your energy.
Well said.
Listen, if you are nodding along right now, if you are actively trying to figure out how to get more consistent, much better projects, and you want to stop relying solely on the unpredictability of word-of-mouth referrals or those chaotic, stressful ad spikes in the summer, that is exactly what we help with as a growth partner.
We build these exact systems alongside you.
You can check us out, see our frameworks, and see how we work at creativeatrium.com.
But as you think about your upcoming season, and you start looking at your operational gaps, I want to leave you with a final thought to mull over.
Okay, let's hear it.
We've talked entirely today about how the structural preparation protects your sanity and drives your immediate revenue. But consider the long-term endgame. What happens to your company's actual valuation?
Oh, that's interesting.
A business that runs on seasonal panic, where the owner is the sole dispatcher and the revenue is wildly unpredictable, is functionally unsellable. No one wants to buy a panic attack.
True.
But a business with a curated, predictable pipeline, strong conversion systems, and automated recurrence, that is a highly valuable asset you can eventually exit.
Absolutely.
So as you plan for this next slow season, ask yourself, are you just trying to survive another summer rush? Or are you finally building a company that you can eventually sell? Are you running your calendar, or is your calendar running you?